Good morning to many of you. Good afternoon, Scotland and London. And yeah, happy to practice with you. Very sweet seeing the chat community sangha. Okay, um, let's practice together. One way of talking about dukkha, usually rendered as suffering, is that life is a little bit too much, at least often too much. A little overwhelming just to be human. And so in meditation, it's just a way of doing much, much less, and being open to how life flows through us. Settling and tranquilizing so that we can meet life as it flows through. So relaxing whatever can be relaxed, the area around your eyes, be so much tension just in unconsciously in muscles around the eyes. And your jaw softening, releasing. So my friend Pam Dunn says, just let your whole face fall off. letting your shoulders hang loosely. Wherever your shoulders hang after a deep breath, just let them rest there. Let your belly be soft. Any subtle tension or holding, bracing in your belly, soften. If you're sitting, just letting your hips, pelvis sink into the ground. Let your feet be open, your hands be open. Sense that energy can run through unimpeded. And now that which we already know how to do, breathe, becomes a object of awareness. You already know how to do this. Now we just delight in aliveness, simplicity, life becoming simpler. There's hunger for oxygen we breathe in. That's quite pleasurable. A little tension builds up, and then we expel what's been used up. That too is quite pleasurable. So for a few minutes, just enjoy. In subtle ways, we're embedding this present moment within a kind of matrix of predictions and expectations. A sense of the energy just leaning forward, sense of knowing, thinking that we know who will be in the next moment, what our life will be, the end of this practice period, the end of this day. The ways in which we predict continuity and expect ourselves in the next moment, in the next moment. We practice diving into the present moment in the subtle ways that expectations are modeled by our mind. We prune those back by having deeper fidelity to this mind moment. You stop predicting yourself. And samadhi is a kind of dissolution of the predictive architecture. Craving is always about one word: next. And usually, what we envision being next is me. In meditation, we soften the expectation that I'm next, me in the next moment, me reborn exactly as I was. We stop making that hypothesis. We fall into the present moment. We often associate disorientation with unpleasantness. Who likes getting lost? Maybe a few people, but I have never had the taste for that exactly. I associate disorientation, generally speaking, with unpleasantness. But here in Dharma, we actually develop some appreciation for it. And those moments when right after you wake up or something, before you've remembered who you are, some elements of practice are about acclimatizing to disorientation. And was alluding to that a little bit in the instructions. And AWE, this is a beautiful feeling, pleasant, but maybe a little disorienting, the sense of the mind broadening. And it's like we're not accustomed to so much space. But awe is the feeling of a kind of simultaneous expansion and contraction. We're like infinitesimally small and vast. And there's a sense of like, oh yeah, this smallness is partaking in the vastness. This is psychologist Dacher Keltner. Awe is the feeling of wonder and amazement at being in the presence of something vast that transcends one's current understanding. Awe is part of a family of states that includes elevation, appreciation, and admiration. The majority of awe experiences occur in response to nature, other people who display virtuosity or magnanimity, art and music, religious experiences and ideas. Similar to other pro-social emotions like gratitude and compassion, awe reliably predicts increased sharing, assistance, and generosity. Maybe you're in nature, in the mountains, and that kind of stunning austerity of the world just stops you, and a sense of like, I don't know, time can be felt in a different way, you know? It's like you just see the rocks and the trees and the landscape. It's just like, yeah, time can be sensed. Or virtuosity, I was like, saw a video of Simone Biles doing a floor exercise, the gymnast, like kind of the best gymnast in the history of the world, and it's like, and what she was doing, it was like, I was really like, the response was like, I cannot believe we're both Homo sapiens. She and I were both like the same species. I was like, I just felt proud to be like part of the same species. Somebody who could do that. It's like science fiction, you know, or goodness, like it's usually called moral elevation, the moral beauty that we can witness that can fill us with awe. There's a lot of it happening. It doesn't get reported so much, but it's like, you know, I don't know, much more goodness than we could ever estimate. Greed, hate, and delusion, of course, must fill the pages of the papers. Um, but the amount of just simple, ordinary goodness is staggering. And Awe breaks us out of claustrophobia. I associate suffering with claustrophobia, and often we don't realize how small our life has become, you know, and it's natural. Suffering is inherently self-absorbing, you know. I'd like to live with the sense of life as a problem just puts all the focus on what's in front of us, you know. And because the feeling of self is a feeling of specialness, it's um, it's hard to treat ourselves as just another person. And so a lot of how we work with our mind is about broadening. And awe is like a sudden, dramatic broadening. We learn to live in more and more awe. We develop awe for um, the path and the lineage, And there are times when, there are times when it's like, oh yeah, I'm a meditator, da, 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 whatever. Then other times where it's like the gratitude is so overwhelming that it just becomes awe. Like how on earth did Siddhartha Gautama, like of Lumbini, 600 BC, speak so directly to Matthew of California, 2025 AD, to speak words that are relevant across space and time. Amazing. And I remember early tastes of the path, kind of like have shared this moment with Galen Ferguson, a Tibetan teacher, and after a weekend retreat on the unity of shamatha and vipassana, the unity of um, tranquility and insight. And I didn't know what was happening, but, it was kind of like, beginning to fall in love with the Dharma. And I go up to him afterwards and kind of crying and sort of messy and trying to say something, but kind of just wanting to hug him. And, and he's a kind of little bit buttoned up, didn't know exactly what to do with me. But he was so gracious, beautiful. And, he just said something like, yeah, sometimes peering out over the vastness of the Dharma ocean can be a lot, can be a lot. Awareness becomes a kind of object of awe, like how close the distance from suffering to peace might be. In the locked in feeling of dukkha, the claustrophobia of dukkha feels like, well, no way out of this until I get circumstances right, till I get straightened some way. And and then we start to appreciate, like, wait a second, maybe there's a lot of peace much closer than my mind suspects. Maybe it's just one moment away. And it's not always like that, but sometimes it is. And when it's like that, we say to ourselves, okay, I don't want to forget this. We're encouraged to reflect on the kind of preciousness of human life. Awe, awe, we could say, at having been born. And we're thrown into the condition of living, and it feels so self-evident that I should exist, but it's super wild, You know, it's wild. There's something rather than nothing. Nothing says we should exist. Nothing says the Dharma should have been offered. As I say, like all the time before you were born, plus all the time after you die, is almost precisely all the time there is. And yet, here we are on YouTube. And wonder, like a sense of awe in the face of possibility. How might I live in existential psychotherapy? The failure to grapple with kind of core existential themes is thought to be produce symptoms, lead to pain. And one of them is around uh, the openness of possibility, the weight of freedom. You know, how might I live? And we've perhaps been too taken in by convention, by all the kind of models of happiness proffered by society and everything that we consider, well, this is the natural way, this is customary, this is the right way, this is common sense. Empty. Sila Bhatta Paramasa, like attachment to right, usually rendered as attachment to rites and rituals, which is shed at stream entry. Um, attachment to rites and rituals. But it's also, in a deeper sense, the ways in which fidelity to convention, to making what is empty seem uh, concrete. And it's sometimes it's like, oh yeah, my entire life is Sila Bhatta Paramasa. Entire life is convention. And it's not to say we should live a totally different life, but we should realize we're just making this shit up. Totally. Okay. How might I live? And even if I do live, and I do live in adherence to convention, at least it looks like that, but not inside. So we recognize the groundlessness of all convention, and there's a lot of wonder, awe. How might I live? I remember at a retreat, New Year's Eve, a retreat that fell over New Year's Eve, and it was a couple weeks of retreat, silence. I was sitting, and we ring in the new year with chanting, and then have a silent dance party, and it's midnight, or it's after midnight, and I'm sitting in a chair out in the Santa Barbara stars, and some of the light from those stars, looking up, you can see a lot. It was a good night, and knowing that I'm looking at some stars that are now gone, literally looking at the past. And amidst the vastness of space and time, I remember thinking like, oh my goodness, like here I am amidst this like unimaginable vastness, and I'm worried about my butt hurting from sitting. you know, hard to take much seriously amidst the vastness. But as the self grows smaller, the world gets much bigger. The less clinging, the more life. The less clinging, the more life. And then there's a lot of love, a lot of joy, a lot of cheerfulness, you know, to sense into that openness. Maybe we call it the openness of life. Sense how vast the love might be. So we live in some sense of awe. We actually don't acclimatize to it totally. It's not old hat. Offer this for your consideration. Yeah, sweet to be with you. Thank you for your attention, and we'll keep going tomorrow. Okay.